The station called Kappa 7 floated at the edge of known space like a forgotten coin at the bottom of a pocket. It was old. It was dirty. And nobody important ever came here, unless their ship was broken. Una liked it that way. She had worked in the lower docks for 3 years now. Every day was the same. Ships came in with problems. She fixed them. The crews left without saying thank you. Sometimes they looked at her like she was a bug on their food. Sometimes they did not look at her at all. That was life for humans in this part of the galaxy. The Galactic Concord had hundreds of species. Some had scales. Some had wings. Some had so many eyes that Una lost count. But humans were at the bottom. Everyone agreed on that. Humans were small. Humans were weak. Humans had no special powers, no ancient history, no great technology. Humans were useful only for cheap labor. Una did not complain. She had learned long ago that complaining changed nothing. She simply worked. She woke up early, put on her worn gray jumpsuit, and walked down to the docks where the air smelled like engine oil and burnt metal. Her workspace was a small corner near the waste recyclers. The good repair bays went to Velen engineers and Keth mechanics. Una got whatever was left over, a rusty workbench, tools that other workers had thrown away, lights that flickered when the station shook. But Una made it work. She always made it work. On this particular evening, she was finishing repairs on a small trading vessel when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the dock. Workers stopped what they were doing and looked up. A ship was coming in fast. Too fast. Una walked to the observation window and watched. The vessel was huge, a Keth warship painted in dark green and gold. It was not supposed to be here. Warships never stopped at places like Kappa 7, but this. One was limping through space like a wounded animal, smoke trailing from its side. The docking clamps caught it just before it crashed into the station wall. Within minutes, the dock was full of Keth soldiers. They were tall, almost 3 meters, with thick scales and eyes like yellow fire. Their commander stood at the front. His name was Rovan, and he looked angry enough to bite through steel. Una stayed back and watched. She was good at watching. The Keth engineers rushed to examine their ship. They shouted at each other in their harsh language. They connected diagnostic machines. They ran tests over and over again. After 2 hours, they stopped. The chief engineer approached Commander Rovan and spoke quietly. But Una could read the body language. The news was bad. Rovan's scales darkened, a sign of fury in his species. He turned and kicked a supply crate so hard it flew across the dock and smashed against the wall. The ship's core was failing, and the Keth engineers could not fix it. Una understood what that meant. A warship core was not like a normal engine. If it failed completely, it would not just stop working. It would explode. The Keth would have to abandon their vessel and call for rescue. For a proud warrior species, that was worse than death. She watched the engineers argue. She watched them point at their diagnostic screens. She watched them shake their heads, and she saw the problem. It was so obvious to her that she almost laughed. The core was not broken. It was caught in a feedback loop, a simple error where one system kept telling another system to shut down, which told the first system to restart, which told the second system to shut down again. Round and round forever. The Keth engineers could not see it because they trusted their machines too much. Their diagnostics said the core was dead. So they believed the core was dead. But Una had fixed hundreds of engines the diagnostics said were dead. She knew that machines lied sometimes. She walked forward before she could stop herself. A Keth soldier blocked her path immediately. He looked down at her like she was an insect. Human, go back to your corner. Una stood her ground. I can fix your ship. The soldier laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. You? Fix a Keth warship? Go away before I remove you. Let her speak. The voice came from behind the soldier. Commander Rovan was watching her. His yellow eyes were cold, but there was something else there too. Curiosity, maybe. Or desperation. Yuna met his gaze without looking away. Your engineers are looking at the wrong problem. The core is not dead. It is stuck in a loop. Your diagnostic systems cannot see it because they are part of the loop. Rovan stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at his chief engineer. The engineer shook his head. Impossible. Our systems are the most advanced in the Concord. If there was a loop, we would detect it. Yuna shrugged. Then I'm wrong, and you lose nothing by letting me try. But if I'm right, you save your ship. Silence filled the dock. Every Keth soldier was watching now. A human, a small female human, was offering to do what their best engineers could not. Rovan made his decision. 4 hours. If you fail, you will clean our waste systems for a year. Yuna nodded and walked toward the ship. She did not clean their waste systems. 4 hours later, the warship's core hummed back to life. The Keth engineers stared at their screens in disbelief. Yuna had bypassed the digital systems entirely. Rerouting power through manual connections she built from scrap parts and old wiring. She walked off the ship covered in grease and sweat. Commander Rovan was waiting at the bottom of the ramp. He looked at her for a long time. Then he did something Yuna had never seen a Keth do before. He bowed his head. It was small. Just a tiny movement. But Yuna understood what it meant. He turned and walked away without a word. His soldiers followed. Yuna went back to her corner and picked up her tools. There was still work to do, but something had changed. She could feel it in the air. For the first time in 3 years, someone had seen her. The journey to the hollow expanse took 9 days. Yuna and Mira took turns flying the shuttle and sleeping in the small cabin behind the cockpit. They did not talk much. There was not much to say. Both of them knew what they were flying into. Both of them knew they might not come back. On the 8th day, the stars began to disappear. Yuna was at the controls when she noticed it. The bright points of light that had filled the windows were fading, one by one, like candles blown out by wind. By the time she woke Mira, half the sky was dark. "We are entering the expanse," Mira said quietly. Her wings trembled. The shuttle crossed an invisible line, and everything changed. The first thing Yuna saw was the ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands, maybe. They drifted through the darkness like dead leaves on a frozen pond. Some were small, single-pilot vessels no bigger than her shuttle. Others were massive, warships and colony ships and vessels she did not recognize. All of them were dark. All of them were silent. All of them were dead. "By the Hive, Mother," Myra whispered. "How many?" Yuna did not answer. She was looking at the symbols on the ships. She recognized some of them. Keth military markings. Velen trade insignia. Human corporate logos. Ships from every species in the Galactic Concord, all gathered here in this graveyard. How long had the Concord known about this? How many people had they sent to die? The shuttle drifted deeper into the field of dead ships. Yuna kept the engines low, afraid that too much power would attract attention. Attention from what? She did not know. But she could feel something watching them. Then she saw a dot at the center of the expanse. Past all the dead ships, there was a structure. It was huge, bigger than any space station Yuna had ever seen. It looked like a ring, a massive circle of dark metal floating in the void. Strange lights pulsed along its surface, dim and slow, like a heartbeat. "That is not Concord technology," Myra said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "No," Yuna agreed. "It is older." She checked the signal trace on her scanner. Tay's signature was coming from inside the structure. "We have to land on it." Myra's mirror eyes went wide. "Land? On that thing? Yuna, we do not know what it is. We do not know what it does. Every ship in this graveyard probably tried the same thing. I know. Yuna's hands were steady on the controls. But my brother is in there. She pushed the throttle forward. The moment they got close, the shuttle's power started to fail. Lights flickered. The engine stuttered. Warning alarms screamed and then went silent as the systems that controlled them died. Mira grabbed her control panel. We are losing everything. Navigation is gone. Life support is dropping. We have maybe 10 minutes before we are dead in space like the others. Yuna did not panic. She had fixed too many broken ships to panic. She looked at the structure below them. It was draining their power. That was what had killed all the other ships. Their advanced systems were being pulled empty like water down a drain, but their shuttle was not advanced. It was junk. Old parts and scrap metal held together with welding and hope. Myra, cut the main computer. What? Cut it. Kill the digital systems. All of them. Myra stared at her. We will be flying blind. Better blind than dead. Mira hesitated for only a second. Then she reached under the console and pulled out a handful of wires. The screens went dark. The warning stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then Yuna felt the engines kick back on. Not at full power, but enough. The shuttle was too simple, too old, too manual for the structure to drain properly. She grabbed the physical controls, the backup stick and throttle that she had installed herself, and aimed for a flat section of the ring. They hit hard. The landing gear screamed against alien metal. The shuttle slid sideways and crashed into a raised platform, finally stopping with a groan. Yuna sat in the dark cockpit and breathed. We are alive, Mira said. She sounded surprised. We are alive, Yuna confirmed. Now let's find my brother. They put on their environment suits and stepped outside. The structure's surface was cold and smooth, covered in symbols that hurt Yuna's eyes if she looked at them too long. There was air here, thin but breathable. The structure was maintaining some kind of atmosphere. Yuna followed her handheld scanner toward Tay's signal. It led them through a massive doorway into corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls glowed with that same slow, pulsing light. They walked for what felt like hours. Then they heard voices, human voices. Yuna broke into a run. The corridor opened into a wide chamber. Inside, she saw people. A dozen of them, maybe more, gathered around makeshift shelters built from ship parts and alien debris. They wore torn clothes and tired faces, and standing at the center, looking thinner and older than she remembered, was her brother. Tay saw her at the same moment. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Yuna crossed the distance between them and threw her arms around him. You are alive, she said. Her voice broke. You are alive. Tay held her tight. His body shook. Yuna, how? How did you get here? No one gets here. The structure does not allow it. She pulled back and looked at him. I flew a ship made of garbage. It was too stupid for this place to kill. Tay laughed. It was a weak sound, rough and broken, but it was still a laugh. That sounds exactly like something you would do. Around them, the other survivors were gathering. Yuna saw humans, a few Velen, even two Keth. All of them looked at her with the same expression. Hope. Real hope. How long have you been here? Yuna asked. Tay's smile faded. 2 years. The structure keeps us alive, but it does not let us leave. Our ships are all dead. We have been waiting for someone to find us. He looked at the shuttle parked outside, visible through a crack in the chamber wall. Is that thing really flying? Yuna nodded. Tay single quotes S eyes filled with tears. Then maybe, he said, we finally have a chance. Tay explained everything over the next few hours. The structure was ancient. older than the Galactic Concord, older than any civilization anyone knew about. It had been floating in this empty space for thousands of years, maybe longer, waiting for something. The survivors had learned this by accident. One of the Keth, a scientist named Haran, had spent months studying the symbols on the walls. He believed the structure was a test, a filter designed to find specific kinds of life forms. It drains advanced technology, Tay said. They were sitting in the chamber, sharing food from Yuna's shuttle supplies. Any ship that relies on computers, automation, artificial intelligence, anything like that dies the moment it gets close. The structure sees that technology as a weakness. Myra tilted her head. A weakness? But advanced technology is the foundation of every spacefaring species. Exactly. Tay looked at his sister. That is the point. The structure was built to find species that could survive without it. Species that can adapt. Species that could fix problems with their hands and their minds instead of letting machines do it for them. Yuna thought about her shuttle. Junk and scrap. Manual controls. No computer brain telling it what to do. We passed the test, she said slowly, because we were primitive, not primitive. Tay shook his head. Different. Every other species in the Concord evolved to depend on their technology. Humans evolved to create technology, but not to need it. We can work with our hands. We can think around problems. We can survive when everything else fails. Yuna looked around the chamber. The survivors had been here for 2 years, living in conditions that should have killed them. But they had not died. They had built shelters. They had found water. They had made the structure work for them instead of against them, all because they refused to give up. The structure is not just a test, Haran said. The Keth scientist stepped forward. He was old. His scales faded gray with age, but his eyes were sharp. It is a beacon. There is a control room at the center of the ring. Inside is a device that can send a signal across the entire galaxy. What kind of signal? Myra asked. A summons. The beings who built this place wanted to find worthy species. When they found them, they would send the signal to announce it to the universe. Yuna felt something cold run down her spine. Has anyone tried to activate it? Oren's expression grew bitter. Many times. The device is protected by an interface that kills anyone who touches it. The structure wants us to activate the beacon, but we cannot. Every approach fails. Show me, Yuna said. Horan led them through more corridors, deeper into the ring. The walls here pulsed brighter, the heartbeat growing stronger. Yuna could feel something in the air, a pressure against her skin, like standing in front of a massive engine that was warming up. The control room was at the center of everything. It was a circular chamber, empty except for a single pedestal in the middle. On the pedestal sat a device that looked like a crystal flower, its petals folded inward, waiting. Haran pointed at the floor around the pedestal. Yuna saw burn marks, scorch patterns, the remains of beings who had tried and failed. The interface requires direct contact, Haran explained. But the moment any digital system touches it, the device reacts with lethal force. Even biological beings carrying modern technology are rejected. We have tried everything. Yuna walked closer to the pedestal. The crystal flower seemed to glow brighter as she approached. She thought about what Tay had said. The structure was looking for species that did not depend on machines. Species that can adapt. Species that solve problems with their hands. Every other approach had used technology, robots, remote devices, digital connections. What if the answer was simpler? I am going to try something, Yuna said. Tay grabbed her arm. Yuna, no. You saw what happened to the others. I saw what happened when they tried to use machines. She looked at her brother. I am not going to use a machine. She removed her environment suit, stripping down to just her basic clothes. She took off her scanner, her communicator, every piece of technology she was carrying. Then she took a deep breath and walked toward the pedestal. The air grew thick. The pressure increased. Yuna felt like she was walking through water. She reached the pedestal and looked at the crystal flower. Up close, it was beautiful. Light danced inside it like captured stars. Yuna reached out with her bare hand and touched it. Pain exploded through her body. Not physical pain, but something else. The structure was looking inside her, searching her thoughts, testing her. She saw images, memories, her childhood on Earth's moon fixing broken toys with her father. Her first engine repair, done with nothing but a wrench and determination. Her years on Kappa 7, ignored and dismissed, but never giving up. The structure saw everything she was. Everything humans were. A species that built technology but was not ruled by it. A species that survived through stubbornness and creativity. A species that fixed what was broken instead of throwing it away. The pain stopped. The crystal flower opened. Light poured out of it, brilliant and blinding. Yuna felt something pass through her, a wave of energy that spread outward in all directions. The walls of the structure lit up like stars. A sound filled the chamber, deep and resonant, like a bell the size of a planet. The signal was transmitting. Yuna fell backward and Tay caught her. She was shaking, covered in sweat, but she was alive. What happened? Myra asked. Her voice was full of fear and wonder. Yuna looked at the crystal flower. It was fully open now, glowing with gentle light. Symbols covered its surface, different from the ones on the walls. These symbols she could somehow read. Worthy, they said. Found. The beacon is active, Horan whispered. He was staring at his scanner. The signal is broadcasting across every frequency. Every ship in the galaxy will hear it. Yuna closed her eyes. She had done something incredible. She had done something that civilizations far more advanced than humans had failed to do. For 10,000 years, and now the entire galaxy was coming to see why. The galaxy responded faster than anyone expected. Within hours of the signal, ships began appearing at the edge of the hollow expanse. First came scout vessels, small and fast, sent to investigate the impossible broadcast. Then came warships. Then came diplomatic cruisers and science vessels and observation platforms. The Galactic Concord had kept the expanse secret for centuries. Now everyone knew. Yuna watched from the structure's surface as the fleet gathered. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all floating in the void, all staring at the ancient ring that had been silent for 10,000 years. None of them could approach. The structure still drained advanced technology. Only Yuna's junk shuttle could move freely. On the third day, the High Arbiter arrived. His ship was enormous, a vessel of gold and white that dwarfed everything around it. High Arbiter Null was the leader of the Galactic Concord, the most powerful being in known space. He was ancient, a member of a species that lived for thousands of years. And he had never acknowledged a human in his entire existence. Now he had come personally to see what had happened. The communication systems on the structure still worked. Yuna stood in the control room, facing a projection of the High Arbiter's face. He was pale, almost silver, with features that seemed carved from stone. His eyes were black and endless. "You are the one who activated the beacon," he said. His voice was cold, empty of emotion. "Yes. How?" "Our greatest scientists tried for centuries. Our most advanced technology failed. How did a human, a member of a species barely tolerated in Concord space, accomplish what we could not?" Yuna looked at him without fear. She had faced scarier things than politicians. "You asked the wrong question," she said. "You kept asking how to make the structure accept your technology. But the structure was never testing your technology. It was testing you. Explain. The beings who built this place were not looking for the smartest species or the most advanced species. They were looking for the most adaptable, the most stubborn, the species that could survive when everything else failed. Yuna gestured at the crystal flower behind her. Your species depends on machines to think for you. When the machines fail, you fail. My species does not have that weakness. We learn to fix things with our hands. We learn to keep going when nothing works the way it should. The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. You are saying that humanity's lack of advancement was not a weakness, but a strength. I am saying that you confused advancement with dependence. They are not the same thing. Around her, the survivors had gathered. Tay stood at her shoulder, watching his sister speak to the most powerful being in the galaxy, like he was just another customer at the repair dock. High Arbiter Null studied her through the projection. His ancient eyes saw everything. The structure has chosen humanity, he said finally. The beacon declares it to the universe. This cannot be undone. It cannot be ignored. What does that mean? Yuna asked. It means the Galactic Concord must formally recognize your species. You will no longer be laborers and servants. You will have full standing, seats on the council, rights and protections under law. He paused. It also means you personally will be offered great rewards. Titles, wealth, power, the gratitude of an entire civilization. Yuna thought about it. She thought about the years she had spent fixing ships that nobody thanked her for. She thought about the aliens who had looked at her like she was nothing. I do not want titles, she said. I do not want wealth. I do not want power. The High Arbiter's expression did not change. Then what do you want? I want to go home. I want to go back to Kappa 7 and fix ships. That is what I am good at. That is who I am. For the first time, something shifted in the ancient being's face. Not quite respect, but close. You are a strange creature, Yuna of Earth. I am human, she said. We are all strange. 3 months later, Yuna was back at Kappa-7. The station had changed. New sections have been built. New species visited. Humans walked the corridors with their heads held high, treated as equals for the first time in history. But the lower docks were still the same. Old and dirty and smelling like engine oil. Yuna liked it that way. She had just finished repairing a Velen trading vessel when heavy footsteps echoed behind her. She turned and saw Commander Rovan walking toward her, followed by a group of Keth officers. He looked the same as before. Tall, scaled, eyes like yellow fire. But something was different now. He carried himself differently when he looked at her. The Concord has sent a formal delegation, Rovan announced. They wish to recognize humanity as a sovereign species with full standing. There will be a ceremony. You are invited as the guest of honor. Yuna wiped her hands on a rag. Thank you. But I have ships to fix. Rovan stared at her. Then, slowly, something happened that Yuna had never seen before. He laughed. It was a strange sound, rough and deep, like stones rolling down a mountain. But it was real laughter. True laughter. The human who changed the galaxy, he said, and she would rather fix engines. Yuna shrugged. Someone has to do it. Rovan's laughter faded, but the warmth remained in his eyes. Your shuttle made it back, I see. That pile of junk actually survived the expanse. She is not junk, Yuna said. She just needed someone who believed in her. Rovan was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Perhaps that is what all of us need. He turned to leave, then stopped. By the way, my left thruster array is misaligned. The ship has been pulling to one side for weeks. Our engineers cannot find the problem. Yuna picked up her tools. Bay 4. Give me 2 hours. Rovan bowed his head, deeper this time, a sign of true respect among the Keth. "Thank you, Una of Earth." She watched him walk away. Then she headed toward Bay 4, her toolbox heavy in her hand. The galaxy might remember her as the human who activated the ancient beacon, the one who proved humanity's worth to a universe that had dismissed them for centuries. But Una did not care about that dot. She was just a mechanic dot, and there were always ships to fix. 3 weeks passed after the Keth warship left Kappa 7. Life returned to normal. Ships came and went. Una fixed them. Nobody said thank you, but she noticed small changes. The supply officers started leaving better parts near her workstation. The food vendor stopped charging her extra for human meals. A Velen engineer walked past her corner one day and nodded at her, just once. Word had spread. Not loudly, not officially, but in the quiet way that rumors travel through space stations. Everyone now knew about the human who fixed the unfixable ship. Una did not care about any of that. She had something else on her mind. Late at night, when the docks were empty, she sat alone in her small room and listened to old transmissions. She had been doing this for 2 years, searching through dead signals and forgotten frequencies. Searching for her brother. Tay had been a cargo pilot. He was older than Una by 5 years and had the same stubborn streak. When their parents died in a mining accident on Earth's lunar colony, Tay had taken care of her. He taught her how to fix engines. He got her the job on Kappa 7. He promised he would always come back. Then one day, he did not. His ship disappeared near a place called the Hollow Expanse. The Galactic Concord said the region was forbidden. No ships allowed. No rescue missions. Anyone who entered was considered dead. Una did not accept that dot every night. She scanned old transmission data, looking for something everyone else had missed. And tonight she finally found it. A signal. Weak, broken, barely there. But it matched Tay's ship's signature. Her hand shook as she traced the signal's origin. It came from deep inside the Hollow Expanse, from a location that should have been empty according to all official maps. Her brother might still be alive. Una knew what she had to do. She also knew that nobody would help her. Humans had no standing in the Galactic Concord. She could not file a rescue request. She could not hire a ship. She could not even buy a ticket to the edge of the expanse. She would have to go alone. The next morning, she started gathering parts. An old cargo shuttle sat in the abandoned section of the docks, forgotten and rusting. Its previous owner had died of old age, and nobody had bothered to claim it. Una began taking it apart piece by piece, then putting it back together in new ways. She worked in secret, late at night, hiding her progress under tarps and broken machinery. On the 5th night, someone found her. Una was welding a patch onto the shuttle's hull when she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around, welding torch raised like a weapon. A Velen stood in the shadows. Female, small for her species, with delicate wings folded against her back. Her eyes reflected the light like mirrors. Una recognized her. Myra, the engineer who had nodded at her. "I am not here to report you," Myra said. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. "I want to help." Una did not lower the torch. "Why?" Myra stepped closer. "Because my hive sister disappeared in the same place 2 years ago. The Concord told us she was dead. They told us to forget. But I cannot forget." Una studied the Velen's face. Insects were hard to read, but she saw something familiar in those mirror eyes. Pain, hope, the same feelings Una carried. Every day. She lowered the torch. They worked together after that. Mira was a good engineer, better than Una in some ways. She understood power systems and navigation computers. But Una knew how to make broken things work. Together, they turned the rusting shuttle into something that could actually fly. It was not pretty. It was not fast. But it was tough on the 12th night. They were installing the final engine component when heavy footsteps echoed through the abandoned dock. Una grabbed a metal pipe. Mira's wings buzzed with fear. Commander Rovan walked out of the darkness. He was alone. No soldiers. No weapons. He stood there in the dim light and looked at the shuttle, then at Una, then at Myra. "You are going to the hollow expanse," he said. It was not a question. Una's grip tightened on the pipe. "Are you here to stop us?" Rovan was silent for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. It was silver, shaped like a disc, covered in symbols Una did not recognize. "A military shield generator," he said. "Latest model. It will protect your ship from energy attacks and radiation storms." He held it out to her. Una did not move. "Why?" Rovan's yellow eyes flickered. "The Keth have a saying. A debt unpaid is a wound that never heals. You saved my ship. You saved my honor. I do not like owing debts to anyone, especially not to a human." He dropped the generator on a nearby crate. "There is something else," he continued. "The hollow expanse is not empty. The Concord knows this. They've known for centuries. But they are afraid of what is there, so they pretend it does not exist." Una felt cold. "What is there?" Rovan turned to leave. "I do not know. But my grandfather went there once, long ago. He was the only survivor of his fleet. He never spoke of what he saw. But sometimes, late at night, he would wake up screaming." He paused at the edge of the darkness. "Humans are strange creatures. You break all logic. You survive when you should die. Perhaps that is what the expanse needs. Someone too stubborn to know when to quit." Then he was gone. Una and Mira looked at each other. "We could still turn back," Myra said quietly. Una picked up the shield generator. It was heavy in her hands. Heavy like a promise. "No," she said. "We cannot." 2 days later, they launched. The shuttle slipped out of Kappa 7's dock in the dead of night, its engines running silent, its lights turned off. Una watched the station grow smaller through the rear window. She had lived there for 3 years. It had never felt like home, but it was the closest thing she had. She turned away and faced forward. The hollow expanse waited ahead. A patch of darkness on the star map where no light shone. Somewhere in that darkness, her brother was waiting. She would find him, or she would die trying. There was no other option.